So I am not feeling the purity today. Costa Rica, they have a saying that everybody says, and I'm caught on my buttons on the back of my blouse. It's hot. Anyway, I'm Suzanne Titkemeyer. I wrote for No Longer Quivering Pathos for almost 10 years. Before that, I wrote for No Longer Quivering for about a year. So I'm working on this book about Costa Rica, and I've had to stop several times because of pandemic has changed everything. I had a couple of snags this week that I absolutely must talk about. I have to warn people who are moving here. These are real things. These are things that happen sometimes. Number one, we've been trying for over 2 months now to get a BAC credit card. BAC is one of the banks here, Banco Creditico, I think is what it means. But they Credimatico. So they're a big bank in Costa Rica. They control a lot of the little swipe things that you swipe. Most big companies have account with them. I don't happen to have an account with BAC. Why? Because they're a privately owned bank, and the only banks I bank with here, my bank is backed by the Costa Rican government because it's state run. So you're protected up to so many dollars, just like in the States with the FDIC. So I don't have anything to do with Credimatico, Banco de Credimatico. Nothing. Well, when we went to renew our Price Smart, which is just like Costco, we opted for the high dollar one so that we could get and at the time they said, well, sign up for the BAC credit card and link it to your Costco account, your Costco Price Smart account, and you can get back another 4%. So we jumped through their hoops. We did everything we were supposed to do. We provided copies of our passport, the whole 9 yards, and we got rejected after 2 months. And this is one of those things that's typical Tico. I'm going to explain the culture behind this. The lady at BAC that we were dealing with knew what my husband's age was. He had to be primary on the account because that's just how they do it in Costa Rica. It's a patriarchal society, so almost everything is held primarily in the man's name and secondary in the lady's name. So there's that, which I'm not wild about that. Why is my hair all caught up in this? Because I'm pissed off, I guess. So this plays into the whole Tico thing where they won't tell you anything. They won't tell you bad news. They'll lie to you and say, it's going through. She kept telling us, they're working on it. All the hoops with this thing, thinking any day now we're going to get our credit card for our 4% back from Price Smart. No big deal. We had Costco credit card when we lived in the States that we gave up when we came here. We've got other credit cards. We've got a pretty good credit score and couldn't figure out what was going on, why this was taking so long. Well, on Monday, we went there and we walked right into the bank and spoke to the lady. They rejected us because we're over 60. Apparently, the credit card is only offered if you're under 60. Which is, they're shooting themselves in the foot. I think it's because not only will Ticos not tell you the truth if they can just keep pushing you along and tell you something pleasant until you figure it out. Not only to do that, the reason they set it up that way is because Ticos earn very little in retirement pay. Wages are very low here. Your retirement pay from the government is also very low, and it's not enough to be paying on a credit card. So we ran up against that. And so guess what? We're not getting a Banco Credimatico credit card down, which was a bummer because we're really wanting to do this thing. The second thing we just ran up against, that is the most frustrating thing in the world, was our water bill did not come out of our checking account this month. And we were talking about it between my husband and I. was like, what's going on with this? I don't know. Well, this morning we got up and there was no water. None. Now, keep in mind, the most our water bill usually runs is $26. That's a high one. When we filled our pool, it was only $110. My husband went down to the water company to say, "Hey, A, we don't have any water. B, you never took the money out of our checking account. What's going on here?" Well, we discovered they cut off our water this morning, the 1st of September. September surprise. Yay! So they cut off our water, and they won't cut it back on because they say our water bill last month was 298,000 colones, which translates to almost $600. I don't know how you go from $26 to $600. They're saying we have a leak. It didn't even it cost a sixth of that to fill up the swimming pool. So if we had a leak that was serious enough to run up a bill that high, it would have flooded the whole yard. We would have seen it somewhere. It would have shown up. Nothing in the house is leaking. Nothing's leaking in the wall. Nothing's leaking in the pipes going out to the house. Nothing, de nada. I think they've made a mistake, and this looks like a different version of the Gringo Shuffle. I think that their meters are off. Why? Because I've been talking to other Americans who are getting slammed with these huge water bills this month. We're all getting slammed with them. And the thing is, you got a leak. So I'm waiting for those guys to come out right now. I haven't been online. I haven't been doing videos because I've been sick as hell. And ironically, while I've been sick as hell, without a box of Kleenex has been ranting and raving. So it's like, I got up to this and it's like, I just need to go back to bed now, I think. Between the water and watching that, yeah, I don't know what's going on with you guys, but I've been watching a lot of YouTube videos that I like. And I want to talk a little bit about YouTubers that we all like. I have a new favorite, and it is a bizarre, freaky favorite, which I'm probably going to have to talk about in great detail on some other point. Lives of the Forgotten. That is one of my favorites now. I got to virtually tour Metairie Cemetery in Louisiana, New Orleans, which I've never been to Metairie Cemetery. Most of my relatives are buried St. Louis 1, St. Louis 2, and various smaller graveyards like Bayou Manchac and Ponchatoula. Some real coon-ass little towns. So it's there and it's everywhere else. Mm-mm. So I've never seen the Metairie Cemetery. I've driven past it many times on the interstate, but I've never actually gone in. So that was fascinating. Basically, he does graveyards. He likes to go into graveyards, and he tells some very interesting historical stories, and he's been really good so far. He didn't do this, but I saw somebody else that was doing this, and the reason I even fell into his channel is I saw something about the Richmond train tunnel. I don't know if you guys are familiar with that. I love history, bizarre history even more. Richmond, Virginia had a long railway tunnel. They started in the 1800s that went under Church Hill in Richmond. And the south and the north portals are still there, but they're all sealed up. What happened is that, and you can look this up, this is really bizarre. I'm probably going to try to put some links to this in the description. This is one of those history geek things that I love. They had a lot of problems putting the tunnel in. There were cave-ins while they were putting the tunnel in. This is the 1800s, so they weren't doing a deep excavation. A couple of churches started caving in. So we're talking downtown Richmond, Churchill. So they put this long tunnel in and started running railway trains through it. And they had various problems, more cave-ins, more shifting, whatever. So they closed it. They closed it like around, I think, 1900, 1910. They closed the tunnel because it was unstable and shifty. And they didn't really need it, quite frankly, at that point. They reopened it and started using it again in the 1920s. They went in there and they redid it and made it all fancified and redid it. And they started running trains through it. In, I believe it was the 1900s. I want to say it was 1929. Maybe it was earlier. I'll have to look up the dates exactly. what happened was the tunnel started caving in, and there was a train inside the tunnel. There was an engine, and there were a pile of coal cars it was pulling behind. Thankfully, there were very few people actually in the train. It was not a passenger train, it was a coal train. Coal train. John Coltrane. No, it was a coal train. Coal train. So the things. It caved in. It caved in so bad that the boilers exploded on the train and scalded the engineer. It scalded not just the engineer, it scalded the engineer and a couple other people working the train. One guy made it out. He was just horribly, horribly burned and didn't live very long. He came out of there with his skin falling off. It was that bad. So at the point they realized that the people that are in there, the 4 people that are in there were likely dead, they decided to go in through the top of Jefferson Park there in Richmond and go down and remove the engineer that was in the train and the other people. It was pretty much a failure. They were not able to do that. They got 2 of the guys out, and there are 2 that are still there to this day. What they ended up doing was packing the tunnel with sand. They just packed the entire length of it, and they entombed this train, the coal cars, and the 2 guys that were still on the train. They just entombed them because they couldn't get them out. They said that the guy who was running the train was actually leaning on the throttle, and there was such a and scalded. Horrible, horrible, horrible legacy. So when they filled in the tunnel, one of the first things they did after that was they said there were way more people in there than the 2. Somebody else said things about when the train was run and when it wasn't. They didn't even know the history of it. And I love history. I love history. And I like weird history like this. And then the kids at Virginia Commonwealth University started telling a tale about a vampire that lived in the tunnel. So that's the other legend they keep here, which I think is probably the fervent imaginations of college students that started back in the 1960s. So they're still having problems now after all this time. Here we are in 2021, almost 100 years after that train tunnel originally caved in. And you can see the water damage on the caps on both ends. You can see there's an extreme amount of water in there that has trickled down, and the sand is shifting now, and they're starting to have cave-ins again, or some of the houses in the churches there. So the last 5 or 6 years, it's been a big controversy in Richmond. What do we do about this train entombed in this tunnel that's not stable and caving in? So I'm going to be watching that. I'm curious. I've always believed in the paranormal. Not as I see it practiced on TV and stuff, but I've had my own encounters through the years. So I want to know, is there any interest in discussing that? Because if there is, we can do a paranormal night or day. We finally got out of Afghanistan completely. I was glad to see that. That needed to happen. We were fighting an unwinnable war there. I'm not happy about how it went down, but maybe it was the best that we could do. I was surprised the other day to see that the Taliban actually was helping Americans get to the gate. And I was surprised to see that and happy for some kind of cooperation going on with them. Right now, I don't know about you guys, but I'm watching to see what happens because there are almost no women on the streets of Kabul anymore. They keep saying they're just gone. I suspect the ladies are just staying inside to see what happens with the Taliban. And I don't quite know what the difference is between the Taliban, ISIS-K, and these other groups. So I think I'm going to try to do some reading up on that here pretty soon and see if we can determine what's going on and who's what and where and all that. We need to be watching to see what people are going to do there. It's a really just tragic situation all the way around. Now, I talked the other day about Americans that are there that are missionaries that are martyr baiting, wanting to be sacrificed for Jesus. I've talked about that a number of times about some of these missionaries. They're pretty shitty. So I'm going to keep talking about that. I'm going to put up a survey and ask you guys what you'd like to talk about. I don't want to talk about without a box of Kleenex. She's dull and repetitive, and she does the same things all the time. You can look at her pattern. I think from her pattern, she's probably freaking out right now, likely over all the legal issues. So there's that, and she's making all kinds of threats about what's going to happen on Friday. I don't know. It's just boring and dull. I'll talk about her on Saturday mornings to explain some aspect of what she's saying, especially to do with her Pathos channel, since I know a little bit about that, and see what we can do. Yeah, so I haven't been on the line the last 2 days. Yesterday, I had the first meeting with a documentary crew that is looking at Quiverful, and I had a long conversation with them. I don't know if it'll go anywhere. I don't know if that documentary will get made. I don't know if I'll be filmed. I don't know anything about what will happen with that. But it was a good research thing, and I will talk about Quiverful with pretty much anybody that approaches me that's in the media. I've given a ton of people background information, all without insisting that they give me props, because that's kind of tacky. So there's that. And I've also had the flu like crazy. I picked up this crazy flu my husband had last month. You have 2 days where you're dragging. You have a day when you're sort of okay. You have another day when you're dragging. It has just been no fun at all here. Our house has been no fun. Yesterday, I slept some crazy hours after I talked to the documentary crew. Today, I'm too amped up on caffeine. I'm too hopped up on caffeine and angst. The water thing is pretty big. I'm getting ready to get off here, and I'm going to do some research on it because, like I said, I know they did this to a number of gringos in this area. And if we had a water leak, the level that they're describing, our whole yard would be flooded. More than 5 times the amount of water that would go into our pool. So I think they're having the mechanical problems. They're trying to say it's us in a leak. No, if we had a leak, it would be pretty damn obvious. We do not have a leak. They're wrong. They need to just charge us our usual $26. Hell, I'd even split the bill if they could prove to me that it was a leak. Some glee. The whole thing going on with Kyle Curtis and Stephen McCrae. Kyle is in jail. He got arrested finally for that outstanding warrant. So I'm curious as to what's going to be happening next, and I will have to keep you guys posted. Steve was done dirty by Kyle Curtis, and so he took him to court. And Kyle faked documents. He wouldn't show up. There were all sorts of things he did wrong. If you go to court and you try to fake documents and you try to claim all kinds of crap you don't have at all, this bad stuff happens to you. And my chat is not working at all today. I'm not worried about it. And if it happens, let's see. No, it's just not working. And so I may be covering what's going on there. That to me is far more interesting than anything else. What is notable about it is this morning that Without a Box of Kleenex started backtracking on all the things she said about her friend Kyle Curtis. So there's that. Don't know your friends. Once somebody is arrested and you suddenly, oh, I don't know them. I never supported them. So there's that. Just going to be interesting to see what happens with Steve's detractors as Kyle is jailed for contempt of court and various other things. So I'm going to sit back and watch that. Who knows what's going to happen here. And I'm stuck. I can't do dishes. I can't do laundry. I can't mop the floor. There's nothing I can do until I fight with the water company to get my water back online. The good news about that is that we have a pool, we have a hot tub. It's been raining like crazy. Both are over full. So I have been using water from the pool to flush my toilet. Once I learned it wasn't coming back on automatically or very quickly. So I may be sick. I may be jumping in my rain barrel to wash. I may be taking a rain barrel bath this afternoon if they don't turn it on. Like I said, we're fighting it. So they say you can't fight City Hall. Who knows? I'm going to try. I'm going to try to fight the Asada and see what we can do. Okay, you guys, I'm going to go. I may come on tomorrow if I have something to talk about. Like I said, if you move to Costa Rica, know that you're going to have to do and put up with these things, that the Ticos will not tell you the truth because they don't want to disappoint you. Their culture is you say nothing unpleasant to anybody. You don't go off anybody. You don't say, hey, you can't get that credit card because you're over 60. They will just keep stringing you along until you force their hand. So there's that. Okay, I'll see you guys later. Sorry the chat's not working.